What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Aeron from the YouTube channel. I'm back to discuss WWE NXT, which was glorious. Not that glorious, that guy's boring, but it was glorious nonetheless. Now, before I get to it, you might have noticed that I'm wearing a fantastic new beanie. It is by Refuse to Conform Clothing, and you can go to refusetoconformclothing.co.uk. I'll put the link up on the screen as well, just to help you guys out, and it'll be available in the description of this YouTube video. If you head there and use the code AaronNix, all one word, all capitals, you'll get 10% off of your order. Normally, I'm not big on sponsorship, but I love these guys. They're very, very cool. And obviously, all of their items are gender neutral, gender equality, and that's something that I frankly have a lot of time for and I feel very strongly about. So it's a genuine independent company, and I think it's really worth you guys checking them out and possibly dropping a little bit of money. And like I say, what added incentive could you want more than getting 10% off of your order using my own name? That's terrifying in its own right. It's not an official sponsorship, and as you guys know, it's something that I'm very passionate about because ultimately it wouldn't be on this YouTube channel if I wasn't. Now then, WWE NXT. William Regal opens the show. We were promised two groundbreaking decisions, announcements, and we got those. But they were what we already knew we were going to get. Now, the first was that NXT Takeover will be over the span of 2 days for WrestleMania weekend. That, of course, means Wednesday night on the USA Network, and then the Thursday they'll have an actual Takeover, which follows that up, which I assume will be available on the WWE Network and Peacock and whatever else. I'm grateful I don't live in America, actually, because this Peacock stuff seems to be a bit annoying, to say the very least. But it's good for business, ultimately, and they're making a lot of money off of it, so who am I to judge? Now then, the other announcement was something that was met with quite a bit of grief online because ultimately everyone's very negative. The NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. Now, I will take a positive spin here. I think that these belts are good for business. I think they're good for this women's division. As I've said frequently, this is one of the most stacked, if not the most stacked women's division in the world. I believe them when they say it's the best. I don't think that's hyperbole. They consistently have the best women's title matches, the best women's wrestling, especially in the North American demographic. So it makes sense for them to bring in another belt. It's just a shame because they've got so many incredible women's wrestlers, but they don't really have any real women's tag teams. It was great that they did a Dusty Classic, but going from a tournament to actually having legitimate belts that are going to be defended long term feels a little bit different. Now, I do agree, obviously, with the decision to put them on Dakota Kai and Regal Gonzalez based on what had happened last week, all the controversy, losing the tag team title match, the vaunted tag team title match now against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Their first title defense is against Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon, and excuse me if I don't jump forward slightly on this show, because they put the belts on the line and duly lost them. And I believe a lot of that has to do with the fact that Regal Gonzalez is being built up to face Io Shirai, who I'm about to speak about, of course, because her title match opened the show. That's fine to a certain extent, but immediately out of the gate, I don't care for your belts, and they feel like they don't matter as much because as soon as you put them on somebody, what? Half an hour later, they drop them. I don't see the point in that. That's one of the biggest problems that the women's tag team titles that are on the main roster have, is that they just don't feel legitimate enough. They just kind of volley them around and use them as props. And for them to do that with this, it just left a bad taste in my mouth. I thought it was a bad decision. The match itself was fantastic, but why couldn't you have at least waited until Takeover to do this? Obviously, Takeover, they want to get these out of the way so that they can have Raquel Gonzalez versus Io Shirai. That seems to be the plan. That's fine, but I just feel like this was very rushed, very hashed. And frankly, if you were going to do this, why not wait? Or why not say, hey, here's these two tag team title belts, and we're going to unveil them at Takeover and have a matchup to determine who wins. What you could have done instead is had Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez face Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart. The winners will qualify to face whoever in another match at Takeover to determine your first NXT Tag Team Women's Champions. And I think that would have been, frankly, a little bit better of a compromise. But you know, I'm not going to be too negative. I like the belts. I think they're a little small again. I don't understand this obsession lately with wrestling companies making smaller belts for women. Why can't they just have normal size belts? I don't get it. just, you know, it looked tiny, particularly on Regal Gonzalez, who is an absolute specimen. But it is what it is, and I look forward to seeing what they do with it. But I hope that they're actually going to build up some legitimate tag teams, because their women's tag team division is the one thing where you think it's pretty much non-existent. And of course, it's going to be, because they haven't had any need for women's tag teams until now. Now, sticking with the women, Io Shirai defended her title against Toni Storm successfully. It was a good match. I really enjoyed this match. I don't know what you do with Toni Storm going forward. Maybe she's going to go up to the main roster. I feel like she'd be a great addition for somewhere like SmackDown. Imagine if Bianca Belair captures the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania. Following SmackDown on Friday night, she comes out, glorious moment. Toni Storm interrupts the party, spoils the party, and here we go with a fantastic high-quality affair going forward. But there's plenty of opportunity for Toni Storm. She's beautiful, and she's a highly credible talent in every sense. I think she's got an incredibly bright future. She certainly wouldn't have won the Mae Young Classic if that wasn't the case. And of course, the woman that she beat in the Mae Young Classic had a fantastic performance here, as always. I do get the sense that overall, judging from what I'm seeing on social media, that fans are getting a little bit exhausted of Io Shirai's title run, which I understand to a certain extent, but I also love the fact that all the title runs mean something other than the women's tag titles, which seem to be volleyed around a lot. I think NXT, for the most part in particular, out of all the WWE brands, really cements the legacy of what the belts mean. You see it with the Heavyweight Championship, for instance. It always means something, and I, of course, mentioned that in the main event of this show. But overall, nice match. Thought it was great. Now, sandwiched in between was some really good matches that if you had blinked, you might have missed or not paid attention to. MSK made their return at the expense of GYV and Legado del Fantasma. This match didn't last very long, but Legado del Fantasma got a cheeky win because GYV were distracted by MSK dressed as astronauts. We had a lot of big returns. It's obvious that they're setting up for Takeover, because while this is all going on and Wesley hits Zach Gibson's fingers with the space helmet, which looked horrendously too real for my liking, I was like, oh, somebody who's damaged their ligaments and their fingers and stuff. I was like, oh no, don't like that. And then, of course, Breezango come out while Legado del Fantasma are amusing themselves watching this all unfold. And then MSK and Breezango have a nice little dance moment with the helmets. And I thought it was fun. Great way to set up the heels versus faces dynamic. And the tag team division looks stacked. That's 4 tag teams you had in this segment, and they all looked genuinely like credible contenders. And of course, we're not even talking about the fact that you've already got the tag team champions, Lorcan and Birch, in waiting, probably waiting for a #1 contendership, which is most likely going to be MSK at Takeover. And fingers crossed MSK are going to do the business, because I think them winning the Dusty Classic was magical. Imagine how much more special it's going to be when they win the tag team titles as well. I think that would be so awesome. And of course, they're megastars and superstar bound as far as WWE is concerned. We also had Jake Atlas versus Pete Dunne. I love this match. I can watch Pete Dunne wrestle for nigh on eternity. And I believe him when he says he's the best technical wrestler in the world. I think that he's definitely up there with, obviously, Zack Sabre Jr., Drew Gulak, Daniel Bryan. Never mind the way these people are booked, or some of them at least. It doesn't take away from the fact that they're world-class technical wrestlers. But Pete Dunne, for me, is everything a wrestler should be. And what I love about Pete Dunne is everything he does means something, and it looks real. He looked like he was legitimately trying to hurt Jake Atlas. And by the way, Jake Atlas, right, he gets a bit of grief for being, I don't know, a bit vanilla or a bit boring. I actually think this kid is wicked talented. Crazy athlete. Would like to see more in terms of the entertainment side of things. But this match actually was a sneaky banger. And this very much lends itself to the biased nature of wrestling fans. See, when I reviewed Impact last night, I mentioned the fact that Ace Austin and Chris Bay's match, if that had been on a much bigger spectacle, or had been on a Dynamite or a brand that people, for whatever reason, take more seriously, it would have got a lot more plaudits. And I think that's the case with this, because it was sandwiched in between a load of big heavyweight title matches and that, people are going to sleep on it. But honestly, if you got the opportunity, get 10 minutes of your time, sit down, watch NXT this week, however you consume NXT, and watch this match, because you'll get a real sense of how Pete Dunne works in a smaller environment. And I thought it was utterly fantastic. And he gets on the mic and he presents an open challenge and says, hey, I'm the best technical wrestler in the world. Why doesn't somebody step up and prove me wrong? I would love if Daniel Bryan goes down to NXT and faces him maybe over WrestleMania weekend. Can you imagine if we got Daniel Bryan versus Pete Dunne at WrestleMania? Oh, that's a dream match. I will freak. It's probably not going to happen because I want it that badly. And ultimately, when Vince is in charge, you only get what I say you want, you piece of shit. But it is what it is. And of course, Xia Li facing Caden Carter, and the continuation of this very cool storyline that's going on. And it's actually kind of nice because until Caden Carter and Kacy Catanzaro got involved, it very much felt that this Xia Li angle, although really good, was very much kind of just a device to see how she was going. And now that she's got genuine opposites to work with, baby faces who can oppose her, it just feels like the angle means a little bit more. Now, obviously, what I liked about this match was that Caden Carter actually presented a bit of a challenge for Xia Li and had her in a bit of trouble. And then, of course, Kacy Catanzaro snaps and hits Xia Li with the crutch, which is, although it's a disqualification and not the most babyface move in the world, it makes total sense because Xia Li caused a tremendous injury to her, kayfabe or shoot, whatever it may be, a partial ACL tear. Bo gets in the ring and he goes to attack Kacy Catanzaro, kind of takes her crutch away, dismantles her, so to speak. He's staring her down, and then, of course, Caden Carter makes the save and a get out of dodge. And we've got a great continuation. It'll be interesting to see what they're going to do going forward with this. But I love Xia Li's character. WWE get a lot of flack for their character-based stuff and burying people, but actually they do a great job with a lot of other talents as well. It's not all bad in this company. If you look at Xia Li, for instance, she was, lovely and a great wrestler, but nobody really gave a shit. And now all eyes are on her and people are really fascinated by this character. I'm not a huge fan of the Chinese government and everything that goes on, but that's obviously politics for another day and another conversation. But obviously, there's a lot of money on the table. There's good business to be made, and WWE have obviously noticed that, and that's probably another lending factor as to why Xia Li gets the push. Now, obviously, the main event was what we all came to see. The NXT Championship was indeed on the line. Adam Cole challenges Finn Balor for the NXT World Heavyweight Championship. Fantastic. As you would expect, slightly shorter than I would have expected, but this was more of a ratings grab. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to be naive and think, oh, they just want to put the best product on ever. They do, but at the same time, they obviously wanted to garner some ratings, which I imagine they'll probably struggle with because AEW has the fallout from Revolution. I just feel that, to be honest, AEW probably gets a little bit more in viewership because it's a little bit more financially backed than NXT as an isolated entity. And also, the fans feel that they're more comfortable watching AEW, and that's not a problem at all. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I have the luxury of watching both. Isn't that a novel concept? We can watch both companies. Finn Balor, Adam Cole, two of the best in the world. This match was fucking fantastic. And all the way throughout it, I was sitting here thinking, well, something's going to happen, obviously, because they're not going to change the title this close to TakeOver, especially in WrestleMania weekend coming. So I thought, okay, who's going to interfere? Either Karrion Kross is going to interfere or Kyle O'Reilly is going to interfere. And just like London buses, when you wait for one, a shitload more turn up. Kyle O'Reilly tips up at ringside. That gives Finn Balor the onus to win the match and retain the title. And of course, while he's sort of faux celebrating, Kyle O'Reilly gets in the ring. By the way, loving the new get-up, looking like a punk rock Canadian. Very Sex Pistols-esque, actually. He gets in the ring, and of course, Adam Cole tries to low blow him. It gets blocked, and Kyle O'Reilly just goes off on one, and we get a very cool-looking, legitimate brawl. Sometimes these brawls can be very over the top, but this was actually really well done, and it really filled me with energy and emotion. I was like, get him, Kyle! Fuck him up, Kyle! It genuinely made me feel something. It genuinely made me think, I want to see him whip that man's ass for what he did to him when he completely excommunicated the Undisputed Era. Now, interestingly enough, in a promo earlier in the night, Adam Cole did say, the Undisputed Era, I'm not done with that, so I'm not sure what they're going to do. Maybe they're going to have reconciliation later down the line, so they can bring them up to the main roster, because obviously Imperium are starting to make their mark. We saw Imperium earlier discussing the fact that they wanted Timothy Thatcher to join the fold, and they even extended an invitation of somewhat to Tommaso Ciampa. So, obviously Tommaso Ciampa's not going to accept it, and I think we're going to implode with those two, and Timothy Thatcher's going to go ahead and join Imperium. However, did really love hearing Tommaso Ciampa mention that the General stays abroad, hidden with his NXT UK title. I was like, I feel that we're going to get a lot more NXT UK talent invading. Of course, we also had something that is quite controversial. Jordan Devlin cut a promo said that the travel ban has been lifted and he is on his way to NXT to face the pretend Cruiserweight champion that is, of course, Santos Escobar. The problem with this angle is that a lot of people have lost their faith and love and passion for Jordan Devlin because of allegations that have been made. Whether they be true or not is not for me to decide on this podcast. But either way, the court of public opinion definitely sways in favour of someone like Santos Escobar far more than it does Jordan Devlin. But we're obviously going to get that big Cruiserweight title unification match, hopefully at TakeOver. So I am excited for that as a match. It's a bit difficult for me to comment on the subject without obviously upsetting a lot of people and, of course, causing litigation. So I will leave it at that. But nonetheless, I hope that this is going to be the door that opens. The forbidden door. Stop saying that. It fucking annoys me. I'm hoping that this is going to be the door that swings open for more NXT UK talent to come over here, and we're going to see Volta on our screens on NXT a lot sooner, because I'm loving NXT UK, by the way. I've started covering that. You can check that out. The video will probably be available by the time you've watched this, or it'll be available later today when this one drops. But I really want to see more crossover appeal, and I'd love to see an NXT Worlds Collide pay-per-view as well. But, of course, Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole are brawling. Finn Balor watches on, and then as he's standing there, you hear him just very silently say, "What took you so long?" And he turns around and Karrion Kross is stood next to him, just staring at him, and the show goes off the air with the potential of these two megastars colliding. It's exciting times in NXT. So currently, right now, TakeOver looks like it's going to have Finn Balor versus Karrion Kross for the NXT Championship. Mwah. It's going to have Io Shirai versus Raquel Gonzalez for the women's title. Mwah. You see where we're going here. It's going to have MSK versus Lorcan and Birch for the tag titles. Mwah. It's going to have it all. Santos Escobar versus Jordan Devlin. We could even have Volta versus Tommaso Ciampa or something along those lines. It's going to be stacked. I fail to see how any genuine wrestling fan cannot be excited for this show. I don't give a shit about your stupid little allegiances and which show you prefer more. If you are not excited for at least one of those matches, then frankly, I honestly don't know why you even bother watching wrestling, because nothing must excite you. That being said, it should be a banger. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we've got loads of content coming at the Wrestle Blog. Sacrifices this weekend, so make sure you check out our predictions and review of that. Get involved. Let us know who you think is going to win there. I've been Aeron Nix, of course. Don't forget, you can use the code AeronNix at refusetoconformclothing.co.uk. The code will be on the screen once again for you. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the Wrestle Blog. I've been Aeron Nix, and I'll catch you very soon for more content from the Wrestle Blog channel.